Hi guys, here is my attempt to try to explain how to add and subtract fractions. I think we learned about this so long ago and many years ago, it may be in elementary or middle school, I'm not even sure when, but if you don't practice it all the time, you can get really rusty at it. It's a little confusing to explain, but I want to try to do my best. Sometimes I tell students just get a fraction calendar or calculator on your smartphone. That's been handy, but it is good to know how to understand it, and the more you use it, the quicker you'll have control over it. So I do have this worksheet of how to read a ruler, and this ruler is broken up in eighths. This is the ruler that I really like to use. All these little squares are 1/8 inch big. On the edge, it has those little squares split in half. Those are 16ths. I personally try to avoid 16ths whenever I can. In pattern drafting, I'd rather round it to the nearest eighth, but they are there if you need them. But I think I'm gonna not talk about 16ths today, and instead I just want to focus on eighths. So this is just a standard illustration that we have in our beginning sewing class. I took that illustration and I put a photo of the ruler that we use, just so you can see, okay, this first box right here is 1/8, and then the next one is 1/4, and then 3/8, then 1/2, 5/8, 3/4, 7/8, and 1. Kind of as a little reference here. Down here, I tried to color code it to kind of help explain what it means. So again, each of these boxes are 1/8. So I just kind of filled them in with a different color. So it's 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, 7/8, and 8/8. Now with fractions, we can oh, I'm forgetting the professional term. All my math friends would be so mad at me. We can factor them down. Is that the word? So when I talk about 4/8, I don't say 4/8. Instead, I say 1/2. That 1/2. And instead of saying 8/8, I would just say 1. So I guess part of the challenge is, gosh, how do we, bring it down? But anyways, here's an illustration of eighths, of counting in eighths. Here's an illustration of counting in fourths. So two of them, it was would be 1/4. And then we have 2/4, which is also the same as 1/2, 3/4, and 4/4, which is the same as 1. I don't know if that illustration helps at all, if I've just made it even more confusing. Who knows? But here's some practice fractions. What is 5/8 plus 1/8? These kind are easy because they're both in eighths, so that's really easy. So you can count your 5/8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5/8, plus 1/8, 1. That would be 6/8. So the answer is 6/8. However, we don't normally talk in 6/8, so we want to reduce that fraction, and 3/4 would be it reduced. So I could divide both of them by 2. It says 2 goes into 6 and 2 goes into 8. So it would be 3/4, which is much more common to talk about. So the answer for 5/8 plus 1/8 is 3/4. I don't know if you're with me or not here. Let's try another one. 7/8 minus 5/8. So again, we're talking in eighths. So really all we have to think about is what's 7 minus 5. But here we go. If we have 7/8, so this is 7/8, this line, all of this is 7/8, from red to brown is 7/8, and we're taking away 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All we have left is red and orange, which is 2/8. So the answer is 2/8, because 7 minus 5 is 2, and then over 8 just stays the same. But again, we don't normally talk in 2/8. We would reduce that fraction to 1/4. So the actual answer would be 1/4. This one's a little harder. What is 5/8 plus 1/4? Well, I can't just add 5 plus 1 because the bottom numbers are different. The bottom numbers have to be the same. And I can't get 8 to 4 because if I divide 8 by 2, it's 4, but I can't divide 5 by 2 without getting a decimal point or yet another fraction. So it's not going to work. But I can times 4 by 2. And if I times 4 by 2, I also have to times the top number by 2. So 1/4 is the same as 2/8. And then I can say 5/8 plus 2/8 equals. And we can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then add our 1/4, which is 1, 2, and the answer is 7/8. Yeah, let's try one more. 3/4 minus 1/8. So again, when the bottom numbers are different, that's tricky. We got to get them to the same. So if I times 4 by 2, that equals 8. But if I times 4 by 2, I also would have to times the top number by 2. So 3/4 is the same as 6/8. 6/8 minus 1/8 equals 7/8. And again, we can always count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6, 8. Get rid of 1. And, oh, did I say 7/8? I meant 5. Ooh, good thing I looked at the ruler. So 6/8 minus 1/8 is 5/8. And 5/8 is, I can't reduce it any further than that. That's as low as 5/8 is going to go. We do have DLAs, directed learning assignments, in our learning center. I reached out to them to see if they work with online students as well, but if not, you can go to the learning center and work with a tutor on fractions. They have some worksheets to help, and they might be better at explaining it than me. But yeah, anyways, let me know if you have more questions. I'm happy to have a conversation about fractions, right? Who doesn't love fractions?